It's time for the Smash Our Stash collaboration share. This month was kind of loose papers that might be in our stash, so let's see what I smashed. Hey guys, it's Beth. Welcome. It is time for the Smash Our Stash collaboration. This is a collaboration that I host that encourages you to use up some of those items that you may have hoarded, collected, forgotten about that are in your stash. So since it is a collaboration, there are a bunch of other amazing crafters that are part of the collaboration. You can click on the hashtag that is in the title of the video. It'll also be linked in the description box. And if for some reason the hashtag is bringing in some weird stuff, you can kind of refine your search by search hashtag only once the search list is already popped up, and that should give you the all the participants who participated for this month's collaboration. This month's theme was loose random papers in your stash. So nothing that's part of a collection or a pad that you have. It just needs to be kind of like individual loose papers. I have a ton of those. I have drawers full of kind of loose random papers. Some of them may have originally been part of a collection, but I may only have like a few pieces left at this point. So they're all just kind of stored together in some drawers. So I used a combination. I used some 12 by 12 pattern papers and some 8.5 by 11 pattern papers. I started off this month by using two papers from Hobby Lobby that weren't part of the collection, but they did coordinate. And I made the April 2023 sheet load. So I ended up making 12 of those, but it was a 6 by 6 pattern paper sketch, or it was a 6 by 6 paper sketch. So I only, with the two sheets that I only used half of each sheet and made 12 cards. So that was a ton. So I had two 6 by 12 inch pieces left after the sheet load. And so I made another 8 cards. They're all the same design because all the pieces I just was able to cut the 6 by 12 pieces that I had left. I just kind of went and cut an equal pieces out of it. So they're about 3 by 5. And I used the bunny stamp that I used in my sheet load, and then I have like some different sentiments. Some of them I already had in my little sentiment stash that I keep on my desk, others that I went ahead and stamped. But they're all the same. There's the pattern paper, there's the mat, and then there is a card mat behind it. And then I brought in like Love from Lizzie strips down here at the bottom just to kind of balance out the card. And then sometimes, depending on the sentiment I used, the cards kind of varied a bit in their embellished layout. So just kind of a handful of different varieties of those. And then on the inside, I did use the rest of the pattern paper and cardstock scraps that I had left between this set of cards and the sheet load. So there was 20 cards using 2 pieces of 12 by 12. That seems like a lot. And then I focused on scrapbooking. So if you follow my channel, you hear me say this all the time, I am behind on my scrapbooking. So I took this opportunity to get some scrapbook pages done, and I tried to focus on the photos that didn't fit a collection that I've been working on or plan to work on. And so this was kind of a good combined opportunity to get some of those kind of one-off photo event type events scrapbooked, and then use up some of this loose paper that I have. So this is actually I had it with superhero stuff. It kind of reminded me of Captain America. It's just blue stars, kind of like tone on tone, blue stars within a circle on a blue background. And there was a strip that I cut off at the bottom that was like some stripes that didn't go with the reds that I was using. And then I didn't really have any embellishments to go with superhero. And so I did have a Captain America shield stamp. So I managed to stamp that out and punched it into a circle. I had some Batgirl stamps, so I just stamped, fussy cut, and colored her up. And then I did have some like Superman, they're like a plastic type medallion. And then just threw on some stars and used stickers for a title. And so then there is a second version of this because I do scrapbook for myself and my daughters. And so this one I did the same thing. So that used up 2 sheets of pattern paper. I'm not counting the cardstock, just the pattern paper. And then I had some photos, like larger photos, just from a daycare photo shoot, preschool photo shoot that I needed to get scrapped. And so I pulled out, there were, I'm sure these were part of a collection at some point, but I inherited these or thrifted them, something. They came to me later, not in a collection. So they were in my loose paper, so I used them, and it's the same sheet that I used for both pages just because that way it kind of coordinated. And I also, when I pulled out my full sheets of pattern paper, as I was working through the pictures, I also pulled out some scraps from my scrap bags that I thought would work. Rather than trying to cut into full sheets of paper that I knew was going to make more scraps, I was just trying to use up some of the scraps that I had. So I also pulled in some different scraps on this particular 2-page layout. And then just kind of pulled in some random embellishments that I had as well. And then again, this is another year's worth of the preschool pictures. This time I used 2 different, I used different papers for each part of the layout, but I tried to coordinate them. So again, these were part of a collection, I'm sure, at some point, but for me now, like I think I got them from my mother-in-law. I think these came from her. They were just kind of loose papers. And so again, I have a full sheet here, and then this was a full sheet, and then the rest of these that I used and brought in were scraps that I was trying to use up. So just trying to tie the 2 pages together with the common patterns that I had. Also used up some old rub-ons that I think came from my mother-in-law as well. And then again, had a hard time finding Christmas embellishment that matched like the muted tones. And so I found some gingerbread men that I had already stamped and were kind of in my little sentiment stash. So I brought those in, and then found these holly, kind of glittery holly leaf bundles. And I was wanting something more like kid friendly, but I didn't have anything and the colors worked. So I used up a bunch of scraps on that particular 2-page layout. And then I had some scraps left, and so rather than throw them back in my scrap bag, since I'm also trying to use those up, I went ahead and made a card, used some more of those little holly bundle embellishments, and then just the scraps that I had, and used up the last bit on the inside. And now I have a bunch of 8.5 by 11 sheets, and I kind of took the lazy way out on these. I was running out of time. And so on these next several, you're going to see some that have like just the 8.5, 11 sheets. Like I didn't even really cut into them. This one I did. I cut this one in half. But this is just a full 8.5 by 11. I layered in kind of that brown burlap to give a bit of country texture, because this was a county fair. And so I was trying to bring in kind of like some of those country style patterns, I guess. So I have 2 of those. So I was able to use 2 of the 8.5 by 11 sheets plus another 8.5 by 11 sheet that I had cut in half. And again, I didn't have a ton of embellishments on this, so I'm going to have to see if I can find anything else to finish those 2 off. And then again, this one I kind of made it really simple for myself as far as the 8.5 by 11 sheets went. So I have the red gingham and the green polka dot that I just kind of crisscrossed. I did round the edges on the green polka dot. And so I didn't cut those down at all. But then I used some more of that kind of dark brown burlap, and I did cut into that to use as my photo mats. And then this white wood grain, that I have a ton of scraps of those. So I just kind of brought those in just to bring in some more texture. And I also was running out of time, so I just printed out some titles. I just typed in some titles on my silhouette and printed those out, so I didn't have to try and find letter stickers and then line them up. So there's that one. This is another variation from my other daughter, very similar. I, again, was struggling with embellishments for these for some reason. I found a tractor that I had printed at some point, so I brought him in and kind of just dressed it up with some stickers. But did the same thing with the 8.5 by 11 sheets, and these are 2 different scraps of the white wood grain, and then also used some more of the burlap. And then this is the State Fair. Oh, also, so I ran out of the big red and white check, so I brought in some of the smaller, used some of the scraps of that dark burlap, but again, just use the full sheets of the 8.5 by 11. And then this last one I'm not finished with. I need to journal and finish embellishing, but I was running out of time. So I found, this was a frozen birthday party, and so I found in my Christmas paper like this really pretty blue with the snowflakes on there, and then I also found some scraps of the purple snowflake. And so I just kind of combined those together to create this 2-page layout. So in total, I used 9 sheets of 12 by 12 and 10 sheets, at least 10 sheets of 8.5 by 11. I don't remember how many of the brown burlap that I cut up. And then I made 21 cards and like 14 pages, but that's, some of those were double page layouts, so it wasn't actually 14 layouts. But used up a bunch of loose paper from my stash. Did it make a dent in my overall stash? Not at all. I could have used so much more and still not have made a dent, but I do feel good about what I used. I had fun making them and got a bunch of pages, got a bunch of photos scrapbooked, so that felt good. But please be sure to check out the other participants to see what they created with loose paper in their stash. Thank you guys so much for your time and hope you all have a very crafty day.